Welcome back. I'm glad you're back. Last time we read a rather troubling story. How Adam and Eve went from this happiness in the garden to starting to believe Satan's lies as he came to them in the form of a snake. And it got them doubting about God's love and about the value of God's one rule that he had given. And so the story ended with them eating some fruit, because it looked good too, from the tree they were not supposed to eat from. And so let's pick up where that left off. We last saw the picture of the serpent wrapped around Eve and telling her about how good the fruit would be for her and how God was lying to her. What happened next was not just a dream, a bad dream. It was a nightmare. A dove flew from Adam's hand. A deer darted into a thicket. It was as if they were frightened by something in that moment. A chill came into the air. Something strange was happening. They had always been naked, not wearing any clothes. But now they felt naked and wrong. And they didn't want anyone to see them. So they hid. Later that evening, as God was taking his walk, he called to them, "Children." Usually, Adam and Eve loved to hear God's voice and would run to him. But this time, they ran away from him and hid in the shadows. Here's a picture. The dove that just flew away, the deer that's darting into the bush, and how they're hiding in the bushes. "Where are you?" God called. "Hiding," Adam said. "We're afraid of you." "Did you eat the fruit I told you not to eat?" God asked them. Adam right away said, "Oh, Eve made me do it." "What have you done?" God asked. And Eve said, "The serpent made me do it." And terrible pain came into God's heart. His children hadn't just broken the one rule, they had broken God's heart. They had broken their wonderful relationship with him. And now he knew everything else would break. God's creation would start to unravel and to come undone and to go wrong. From now on, everything would die, even though it was all supposed to last forever. You see, sin had come into God's perfect world, and it would never leave. God's children would always be running away from him and hiding in the dark. Their hearts would break now and never work properly again. God couldn't let his children live forever, not in such pain, not without him. There was only one way to protect them. "You will have to leave the garden now," God told his children, his eyes filling with tears. "This is no longer your true home. It's not the place for you anymore. But before they left the garden, God made clothes for his children to cover them. And that covering is a hint. He gently clothed them, and then he sent them away on a long, long journey out of the garden, out of their home. Well, in another story, it would all be over, and that would have been the end. And here's a picture of them walking away from the garden. But they have clothes on now because God covered them. But in this story, it's not the end. God loved his children too much to let the story end there. Even though he knew he would suffer, God had a plan, a magnificent dream. One day he would get his children back. One day he would make the world their perfect home again. And one day he would wipe away every tear in their eyes. You see, no matter what, in spite of everything, God would love his children with a never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. And though they would forget him and run from him, deep in their hearts, God's children would miss him always and long for him. Lost children yearning for their home. Before they left the garden, God whispered a promise to Adam and Eve. And here's a picture, and you can see the swirls in the picture, which are the whisper that God is giving them. He whispered a promise. It will not always be so. I will come to rescue you. And when I do, I'm going to do battle against the snake. I'll get rid of the sin and the dark and the sadness you let in here. I'm coming back for you. And he would. One day, God himself would come. And that's in the rest of the story in this children's storybook Bible. We've come to the end of a part of the story, and so I put the bookmark in and put the book away and say to you, shalom and serenity until we meet again.